Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
All right. Get your mic down there, Greg. We're getting ready to start. Not towards John. I'm just gonna let him do all your motions.
Except I gotta do an invocation.
I'd like to call this Whitfield County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for October 6th, special Thursday edition. I appreciate everybody's flexibility on a new date and time. We'll be back to our normal second Monday meeting in November. If you will all please silence your cell phone and rise for our invocation and our pledge by Commissioner Robbins.
Let us pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we pause to say thank you for all your blessings. We recognize who you are and what you do for us. Dear Heavenly Father, we just are thankful that we live in a county that can serve people. Dear Heavenly Father, we just pray that your blessings as we continue to do so. And bless this meeting tonight as we deliberate. Dear Heavenly Father, bless this county, and thank you for your blessings. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, may the record reflect we have 5 commissioners present and the quorum requirements are met. The commissioners and the public were made aware of the agenda last Friday over the weekend. We do have a couple of changes. We're going to request to remove item 14. That ratification is not required. There's no action on the commissioner's part for that. And then 2 new items that were at the bottom of the agenda that was handed out but weren't on the original agenda. One is for a Board of Assessors appointment and a second one for a juvenile court grant acceptance. Are there any other amendments or changes? And I have a motion to accept the agenda with those changes.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? Oh, Commissioner Staton, sorry. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. There was just one consent agenda item. That's our standard ratifying budget changes and amendments from our previous meeting only. The minutes were also sent out last Friday. Did anyone see any corrections or changes to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. All right, we do have an employee of the month, but we're going to skip that for the time being. So I got you excited back there. We're going to come back to him. Don't worry. We had to go get the frame and the certificate, so she'll be back in just a minute. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for a road closure. I know some of us were able to do a little research, have a few discussions since the last meeting when we just accepted the petition from Sunflower Ridge to abandon Battle Ridge Drive. Basically, the person has acquired the land on both sides, including I think a cul-de-sac at the end, and wants to have a private drive and a large home down there. So I didn't see any other suggestions, anything else from our county attorney on that?
No, sir, we need to open a public hearing on
Yeah,
it, but,
Yeah, that was the only thing.
I don't
We'll
know if
vote on it in a moment. We're just taking public comment. I didn't receive any emails or feedback from the citizens. I just asked a few questions of my own.
portion of Battle Line Drive, I believe.
Okay. I don't have the exact details on the numbers. It should be in the packet, though.
It's in the deed.
Yep, it's in the deed.
But there's
Is
no
there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this petition to close a portion of Battle Ridge Drive? Anyone would like to, you would like to speak? Come on, you come to the front, Mr. Davis.
It's a road on a piece of property that we developed a long time ago. It has no other houses or anything on the road and has no other residents on that road nor property owners. So it's just a dead-end little street that goes out there, and we just want to close it so that they'll have the whole thing.
And there's no through traffic on it, so.
No, sir, not at all. Okay.
Okay, great. Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed to closing that road? I will close the public hearing for now, and we'll vote on it in a moment. All right, this is a portion where each commissioner gives a brief report, anything that's on their mind. I always like to start off with our objectives for this year. One of them was to upgrade this meeting, which of course you've seen the new room we moved into a couple of months ago. And tonight we are live streaming not just on Facebook, or I guess they're called Meta now, but also on YouTube. Some people don't like Meta. Some people have been banned from Meta. So you can go to YouTube. You don't have to have an account or log in, and you can watch the meeting, or you can watch it in arrears too. It's saved for archive purposes. If you can't watch it live, it's available too. So that's part of our modernizing government, as well as digitizing the courthouse here, the deeds and records and things like that. We're focused on better paying jobs, so we've got some news on that that we'll cover in just a moment. We're looking to lower property taxes. And a quick update, we had the new schedule with the new assessments that got rolled back and changed, and the kind of new schedule that's different from normal. So those have been mailed, I believe. Is that correct, our county administrator? They're going to be mailed this week, let's say?
I think so, yeah.
If not all of them, most of them should be mailed this week, so you should start receiving them. Is that right, Chief Fraser?
Mail Monday evening.
Oh, of this week.
Should be hitting mailboxes probably today.
Okay, great. So, yeah, look for those new assessments over the next couple of days, so you can throw out the ones from the summer. Those are not applicable any longer. And of course, improve our teamwork between the city and the county, and we've got some new information on that today to share as well. So, made progress on all these in the last 30 days. Speaking about that last one, I did a couple of TV interviews, and they never let me quite cover all the items, so I'm happy that I can take just a minute or two to share everything about the new company that's coming to our industrial park, Essentia. Again, they sell chicken broth to all the major soup manufacturers, or even grocery stores that have their own branded chicken broth, or if it goes into another type of soup. They also sell the same powder, a protein powder that goes into different types of nutritional milkshakes and protein shakes and things like that. So a pretty wide, definitely recession-proof, because there's nothing like inexpensive soup and comfort food. If there ever is a recession that people keep talking about in the next year or so, their business is fairly recession-proof. They've never had a problem with having to close plants or lay off people, so that's good. It's a $100 million investment, as reported in the paper, with 80 jobs. And I want to stress, these are higher paying jobs than we've seen in the past. These are engineers. There's some hourly, but there's a lot of salary jobs as well. Quality control, inspectors. This is a USDA facility, so it's extremely clean because it's human food is basically produced on premise there. But it's totally automated. No human touches the food. There's nobody, pulling something apart or cutting or any of those kind of meat processing. This is a chicken broth company, and it's fully automated.
Can we stress that no live animals will be brought to that?
No live animals, no slaughtering of animals, nothing like that takes place. And like I said, literally no humans touch any of the food product that does come as raw materials, as frozen raw materials. So very clean facility, and again, there's nothing that gets slaughtered or cut up or anything like that at the facility. It's all self-contained and really automated, so it's pretty interesting. That will contribute $780,000 to our general fund, back to the taxpayers pretty much immediately as they purchase the land, 20-something acres, 24 acres, something like that, to us. They will pay, let's see, let me get you the exact amount, I think it's 3.4 million. Yeah, 3.5 million in new school and county taxes in the first 10 years. And of course, after 10 years, it'll go up even higher. So they'll start paying taxes on day one, which was kind of our new strategy, is to sell land, not give it away, and to make sure that people are contributing to our community. And of course, it's a great partnership. We look forward to working with them and making sure they have a smooth transition to Georgia, the first plan in Georgia for this company. So those are kind of the benefits I had. I don't know if commissioners had any other comments or questions about that, but look forward to them getting started hopefully by the first of the year. Of course, not the best time to be doing construction in the winter, but I'm sure they'll make progress next year on it as well. Okay, our second kind of announcement for tonight is that we have an agreement with the City of Dalton on our service delivery strategy. Sometimes we just call that service delivery agreement. It expires later this month, so we need to vote on it tonight. I believe Dalton and Tunnel Hill have agreed to take it up next week, and ultimately, of course, Cohutta and Varnell. But as long as 3 of us vote for it, it's technically adopted at that point by us, but they'll all ultimately vote on it. But We're trying to get it all done this month and get it down to our friends in Atlanta to review and certify us. That will last for 10 years. Most of the items were already negotiated as part of the lost, but I really want to thank our county team, our county attorney, county administrator, all the departments had to review different parts of the documents. There was 35 documents, so it was just a tremendous amount of work. No, I'm sorry, 39, sorry, they corrected me. I put 35 plus there. It's actually 39 original documents. And of course, some were the infamous handwritten notes on the side of the document. Some of them were 20 years old, really out of date. So all of those got updated, consolidated down to 26 agreements, so it's modern, it's up to date. We're not putting things in there that we don't do. Everything that we have full agreement on is in there and validated. So a great offer. It's not the most exciting read, but if you want to go out there and read it, it is on our website. But it's a lot better than the alternative, which is lawsuits and judges and arbitration and all that. So we like the no drama route, and I appreciate everybody working together as a great team to make that happen. And my last point is just a reminder about the general election coming up. The last day to register is this coming Tuesday if you want to vote or haven't registered or updated your address recently. And then early voting starts right after that on the 17th through the 4th with 2 Saturdays this time. So remember, this is the new law where we actually have 2 Saturdays that you can vote here at the courthouse. And of course, early voting is right on this floor in the courthouse as well. And then election day at all the polling places like normal on November 8th. It for me. Commissioner Jones, anything to add?
No.
Commissioner Thomas?
Nope.
No, sir.
Commissioner Robbins?
I do not have.
Right. County Administrator?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, citizens here in the room and watching on video at home. A lot to report this month. I'm going to take the first opportunity for my commercial message to promote the Prater's Mill Country Fair. The annual fair will be this weekend. The weather will be great. That's Saturday the 8th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday the 9th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And Prater's Mill historic site is at 5845 Georgia Highway 2, just outside of Varnell. The fair will feature food, handicrafts, music, and celebration of the culture of Southern Appalachia. Speaking of Prater's Mill, a county team went out there, I believe, about a week and a half ago to tour the facility to see what needs to be done. The buildings there are more than a century and a half old, or at least some of them are, and they don't maintain themselves, so there is some work that needs to be done. And being fiscally conservative, we are looking for ways to pay for those repairs without using tax dollars, and we are presently pursuing through the state of Georgia an Improving Neighborhood Outcomes grant that is a maximum of $2 million. We will be bringing that before the board for the application for approval. We're waiting on some cost estimates, but we hope to be able to go ahead and bring about some of those improvements, not just to maintain the historic site, but in doing so, we'll be able to make the facility more attractive for other events, which of course increases the revenue and the long-term viability of the facility. And for those who don't know, the facility itself is managed by the Prater's Mill Foundation Board, but the facility, the land and the buildings is actually owned by Whitfield County. So be sure to get out there this weekend. It should be a good time and the weather will be very cooperative. The next thing I want to discuss is the senior center transition. Some of you don't know, the chairman just discussed loss negotiations and service delivery agreements. Part of that was prior to January 1st, which the period we're in now, the senior center just up the street is jointly operated by or jointly funded by the city of Dalton and Whitfield County. It's owned and operated by the city of Dalton. The city of Dalton will be transferring ownership and operation fully to the county come January 1st. One of the things we're looking at doing there is improving services to senior citizens. We've been having several meetings. In fact, the county team will be over at City Hall tomorrow to discuss the transition to make sure that goes smoothly. One of the things we hope to do is to expand the programming to include health items for senior citizens and financial I guess you could call it wariness, because there's a lot of scammers out there who try to take advantage of our seniors, and we want to go ahead and fight back against that. The other thing we want to do is we want to expand the funding sources, kind of a theme with Prater's Mill. Again, our goal here is to pay for as much of your local government without your dollars. So we will be pursuing federal funding, particularly the federal Senior Citizen Nutrition Program, to fund the meals that are served out there. The next item is continuity of operations. That's going to be take place on Friday, October 14th in Ringgold. That's a joint effort with Whitfield County and our sister counties of Catoosa, Dade, Gordon, and Walker. Continuity of operations will address readiness so that your county government will continue to operate whatever may occur, whether it's a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. Presently, you see the situation in Florida. What we want to be able to do if there is some sort of disaster, some reason why there may be problems here in Whitfield County, we want those essential services to continue to be provided. And while we're talking about that, I do want to give a shout out to John Sampson, who's a 911 dispatcher. He is down in Fort Myers, Florida for the next 2 weeks. And I want to emphasize, just so the folks at home and the folks here understand the dedication that our employees have as public servants. He is living in a tent right now, helping out in Fort Myers, Florida, and we do that even though many of us don't know anyone in Fort Myers. They are fellow Americans, and we help them out, and with the expectation that if Whitfield County ever runs into bad luck or some sort of situation like that, that our neighbors, not only just in the surrounding counties, but surrounding states, will help us out as well. So I want to go ahead and commend John and Emergency Management 911 for letting him go down there to help out these last 2 weeks. The other thing I want to talk about is, and I know this is not on the slide, but given grants, I know there's been some chatter, some people wondering about the ARPA nonprofit grant that the board dispersed or designated a little over $1 million from our ARPA funding that we received from the federal government due to the pandemic. The application period has expired, but presently we have 17 requests for funding, a total amount of $2.5 million. The ARPA nonprofit committee will be sharpening their pencils and going through things with a fine-tooth comb to find out what the best use of that $1 million shall be, and that shall be brought before the board in December, correct? December, for the board to approve that. So we're looking forward to that, for using those federal dollars to improve our community, because it wasn't just government, but nonprofit organizations that suffered as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The final item, there's Kent Benson to give us a sewer expansion update on the south and west side. I know he's been on the phone with Dalton Utility, so I'll pass the floor to Kent.
Good evening. I have been on the phone with Dalton Utilities today. They gave me an update on their construction progress. The order in which they had planned to let these projects was Cleveland Highway first, which would go from the Tractor Supply area up to the Patterson Farm area. It's 17,000 linear feet, a little over 3 miles of sewer. And that project, the contractor is on site. They're still doing location of other utilities that might be in the way, discussing options for open cut versus directional bore. And they're looking to have the first stick of pipe in the ground in the next 2 to 3 weeks. At the point the pipe begins to be installed, there's a 240 calendar day schedule for that project, so about 8 months. They plan to advertise for bids for the Connector 3 and the Carbondale area projects in January, February of 23. And of course, there's the bid process and the contracts and all before you would ever get to construction on those projects would be 2 or 3 months later. And then the Crider Road West Side project would be after that. Did not give me a firm month, because the January, February for the other two are somewhat tentative at this point. But he said his best guess would be sometime in the summer of 2023. be happy to take any questions. I may have to pass them along to Dalton Utilities and get answers, but if you have any questions. Hurry,
That's the
okay,
only item. Hurry.
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for our county administrator? All right, Blanca, are you ready? Yeah, we'll go back and. Now, we're ready for Douglas Brown, our Employee of the Month, and from our fire department, our chief.
You're supposed to stand there.
Oh. Good. How are you?
Lieutenant Doug Brown, his battalion chief Ricky Lloyd.
see.
Rickey's the one that actually put Doug in for the award, and I'll let him get over and say a few words about him.
Yeah, tell us about him.
All right, Doug, he helps out everybody on our training program. He does the physical fitness program with them. We get down to the burn building and we start doing confined space stuff. Doug, people sit there and say, I don't think I can do that. And I've watched him sit and coach with them, and he'll get people that's never been through it, and makes them feel better about themselves. And his continuing work on our new recruits and stuff, I thought he'd be a good fit for this award.
Great. Which station that?
Station 8.
Station 8, okay.
Bypass.
Oh, okay.
Main drive.
Right there with the training center.
Yes,
Perfect.
sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Congratulations. Wherever you want me. Thank y'all. All right, now we're ready for our finance report. Mr. Garland.
So with this report, we're through August for the year, and our local option sales tax is approximately $9 million year-to-date, and that's 12.25% higher than prior year through this same time frame. TAVT is a little over $3 million. That's 2.5% less than through the same time frame last year. Our year-to-date revenue is right at $24 million. That's 5.5% higher than budgeted or projected through year-to-date. And our year-to-date expenses at $33 million for the general fund is about 2.25% higher than projected year-to-date.
And that includes all the budget amendments that we voted on through August, right?
Yes. So we see this in graphical form here, or another presentation. The actual at 24.3 million through August of year-to-date revenue, and our projected at 23 million. And last year's actual was 21. We're running above projection on local option sales tax to this point in the year. But also, we like to mention that it's not that we're taxing that much more or have had some sort of, something is regularly different. There was the ARP transfer of $3 million that we made over into the general fund, and that's the vast majority of that difference in revenue year over year. Expenditures, you see there the almost 34 million versus 33. And last year, through the same time frame, was at 31.6 million. And we are running a year versus budget year-to-date, a surplus of 524 million, while expenditures are the about 2.5% we mentioned above projected through this point in the year. The revenues are higher, and you wind up with a net offset or surplus to this point in time. So our actual fund balance, 19 million, that just keeps dropping through the year. But as we mentioned, by end of year, we have the fund balance that's healthy that we've talked about. That's after we have property taxes, and then that has to carry us through each year until we get around to the time of property tax collections again. We are projecting, if nothing were to change, $32.6 million fund balance. If revenues remain at the same level and expenditures hold at about the same. So then this is splossed. Our collections cumulatively are 39.9 million, and we're right at halfway through that collection period of 48 months. Our project expenditures there at 21.3 million include the regular payouts to Dalton of their share, the total payouts that were made on the front end to Cohutta, Tunnel Hill, and Varnell, and our bond debt service at 13.5 is the set aside to service the bond debt each year. And this is as of August, so that's there, but we actually at the, last Friday, for a Saturday, the first due date, made the bond principal and second interest payment for this year.
And then there's one more to go next year, same time?
2 more.
Oh,
We'll make an interest payment in April, another principal and interest payment in October, and so it goes.
Any questions or anything to add on our financials? Motion to approve the finance report for August 2022.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. Thank you. Now is time for public comments. Any items on the agenda that you saw, you want clarification on, or want to give us your opinion before we vote? Now is the time to do that, and then we'll still have the normal one at the end, or you can give us your feedback on any topic. Any public comments for the agenda? All right. As we spoke about the road closure, a portion of Battle Ridge Drive, was there any further discussion on that from the commissioners? Like I said, I didn't get any emails or complaints, and certainly didn't hear any tonight either. Is there a motion to close?
Chairman,
Yep, go ahead.
the motion would be to close and abandon the portion that was provided for in the petition and to quitclaim it back to the petitioners because they own on both sides of the road already.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. All right, we briefly discussed this. We had a presentation last month from our local food bank and the grant that they received. They went back and worked on the bid a little bit further. There were 3 bids included in the packet. This was the lower, I think, by almost $1 million, so it wasn't even close, but it was still a little bit more than they had fundraised and combined with the grant that we got from the state. But now with the revised bid of $2.74 million, I think they feel comfortable with that. Again, this is not coming out of taxpayer or county money, but we just pass through the grant and their fundraising on the balance of it. But we still need to approve and review their bids. Is there any questions on this, or is there a motion to recommend Mallman Construction for $2.74 million?
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. All right, we're getting into the zoning elements. I just did one per slide, so this is just the first one for RW Sales. This is a proposed apartment off of Brooker Road. There's a rezone. It was approved by the planning to go to R7. I think there was a proposal, I heard verbally, to ensure that they could not use Gale Drive as exit or entrance. So that would be the one condition. Is there any other conditions or other concerns about this one?
I'll make a motion to approve presented data, considering they don't use Gale Drive.
Motion by Commissioner Staton to rezone to R7 with the condition of not using Gale Drive in the future for access.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. This is one that we actually submitted on our behalf we do not own this property, but it was a mistake in the zoning where it should be GA. It was always taxed as GA, but apparently in some of the records it was R5. So we want to put it back to GA, which is how it's used today and how it's taxed today.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Robbins to rezone. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. Another rezone, this is for a C1. This was denied by the Planning Commission, and after further review, this property, this one little building garage has been used for different commercial properties since before zoning was in place. So there was some discussion to allow that grandfather to remain as a variance with the condition they could not transfer, they cannot expand the operation, they cannot have any signage. If it is ever sold, it has to go back to residential. No commercial activities.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't remember them talking about what was it, Gene, the rezoning?
Variance? No, I was just talking to the commissioners about that. Is that possible?
Can't,
Can allow variances?
no, you can't allow it to go back. It can't automatically go back. It'll have to go back through the process. If you change it to commercial, then it'll have to go back through the process if it ever.
No, we would deny that, we would agree with the planning commission to deny it, but allow them to continue
Oh,
as a variance of that piece of property,
It-
or that building, I should say.
The building was constructed in 1999 after zoning was adopted.
Oh.
So the property owner said.
I thought the zoning took effect, okay, I thought it was
93.
2001.
93.
93, okay. And so,
But I did hear the planning commission talking about him being able to use it.
So would that be considered a non-conforming use?
No, sir.
If it's continued,
she's saying, I didn't know it was built in 99, I thought it was built before zoning.
It wouldn't be a non-conforming use because it occurred after zoning was enacted. It's never been zoned commercial.
right,
Yeah, I think we all agree it shouldn't be rezoned commercial, but it's a
Right.
matter of should it, is there a variance or maybe there's not a non-conforming.
If they can, if there's adequate proof to show that it was in existence before 93, then the answer is yes. But from their own testimony, it was
Yeah.
6 years after that, so.
Right, I remember 99 or 2000, I just couldn't remember zoning.
but it's considered commercial, so it hits it.
I know they said they've been doing it for,
Behind the C1,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. If they're going to continue to be allowed to use it, it is a commercial lot.
If you want them to continue to use it commercially, you would need to change the zoning, because that's the only option.
right.
at this
Well,
point.
I was thinking,
Stay commercial.
I thought they had records going back before zoning, but apparently not.
So it's
They talk
either don't change the zoning and they can't use it commercially, or do change the zoning and they can.
But if it's ever sold, property's ever sold, it'll always stay commercial.
Oh, yeah, forever, and they could build anything they wanted.
Yeah, that's
That's not
not the
gonna
right
work.
place for a commercial
Yep.
business.
So we can just deny it, and if he can provide paperwork to show he had a business prior to 93 as opposed to 99, then we can, he'd have to reapply, but as non-conforming, but I don't.
Well, he wouldn't have to do anything. If he's got a
Oh,
non-conforming
we'll
use
just-
prior, I mean, that's
He just has to
administrative.
provide that to Gene, okay. If you guys got other
Well, it
ideas.
looks like, to be sure, the planning commission is recommending to allow a variance for current single building.
No, they didn't, they just said deny it. I don't know, they discussed it, but that wasn't in their motion. Their motion was just to deny it flat. I was talking to you guys about, should we allow a variance, but he was implying it was before
Well,
zoning.
it says Jody McClure attempted to determine a way for the current
Yep.
business to continue without rezoning.
Yep.
So
But-
they did discuss it.
Discuss it, yeah. But apparently, if he doesn't have records going back far enough, maybe.
So we're saying, we're voting to say you can't use it for that.
unless you think that property could be
No,
commercial
I
forever.
know.
But that would
I
be the
just
only
wanna
other,
be
apparently
sure
that's what he's saying. the
that
only
I've
other-
got
I
everything
don't-
straight.
I don't think he presented that night that he can prove he goes back before that.
He said 99 or 2,000.
I make a motion that we approve the zoning commission's denial.
Motion by Commissioner Robbins to deny the
No,
rezone.
Mr. Staton,
I keep looking at you and talking. Motion by Commissioner Staton.
I'll start talking a little lower.
Yeah, that's helpful.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor to deny, raise your hand. Say aye. Any opposed? That passes on a 4-0 vote. So Jane, you just have to let him know if he can provide paperwork prior to 99 or prior to 93 in this case. All right, we have a parcel from C2 to R5. This was approved unanimous and was basically to replace an existing home, but they found out they were not zoned properly for any home. So they're trying to get that resolved so they can replace or rebuild their home.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Staton to approve.
Second.
Second by
Second.
Commissioner Staton Robbins in this case. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. All right, this is approval to apply. We haven't won this one, but it's a pretty hefty grant called Community Violence Reduction. I think this is coming from the governor and some of his ARPA funds that the state got that we did not receive, but if we win, we could fund up to $1.5 million worth of public safety officials, primarily the sheriff, I believe, is what it's focused on since it's crime. That would fund it for 2 years, or all the way through 2026, so actually 3 years, because it starts next year. There would be no match required, but of course, in 3 years, we'd have to decide what to do with those people, but that would have to continue in our budget after that. Is there a motion to apply for the violence grant?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor? Yep, go ahead.
Have we discussed at all what happens at the end of 3 years? I mean, government programs never go away, so. I mean,
As far as I know, it can be used for existing employees too, and so it could help
Carol.
fund increases, or you don't necessarily have to hire
No
new employees.
newly created
Yeah,
position.
it's existing positions.
but,
So you can't cut the budget forever, I don't think.
So this is only allowed to be used for existing positions that were unfilled as of the beginning of the pandemic. So it's not for them to create like, oh, we have 100 positions, we're gonna add a new sergeant position. It's not that. So it would only make sense that since those positions are already basically in the budget, this basically just subsidizes our budget if we were to get it and we were able to hire. I know they have a little problems with hiring right now, but if they were able to hire some of those positions that were unfilled then and are still unfilled, then we could get this funding through October 2026. And after that, the general fund would pick up, but they're standard positions anyway that we already have on the book. So it's not like it would be any additional burden to the general fund.
I assume we could probably use this for like a bonus for new hires to try and attract people to.
No, this is strictly salary and fringe.
Okay. But at least.
just wanted to know that.
So
I mean,
not an additional headcount, yeah.
thank you.
Any further discussion? We already have a motion, a second, right? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. We have been pretty successful with our grants lately, and so the more you apply, the more you win. Budget amendment for our Rocky Face Ridge Park. That was an agreement we had almost a year and a half ago or so with the Historic Preservation Commission. They provided part of the cannon. We provided the tube. You guys saw that when we had our grand opening. I don't know if we fired it or not yet, but we should fire it soon. I'm ready to fire it. But anyway, it's fireable at least. So it's a true tube, but they provided 5,000 and we are supposed to match that.
It is not fireable. It's been fixed, so it cannot be fired.
I need to talk to our, Brian.
Stored here.
I'm not,
Out there
that-
trying to fire.
I recommend we deny this if it can't be fired. I like it, Brian, that's the way I like it. Is there a motion to fund the cannon tube for $5,000?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. Also, a small budget amendment for our animal shelter. We do spend a good bit of money on fuel because we do not kill animals. We find shelters for them if it's in Florida or if it's in Ohio or Maryland or wherever we need to find them. Of course, we'd love to adopt them locally, so please visit the animal shelter. It's brand new, has a brand new adoption center where you can bond with the animal, try it out, make sure it works for your family. But we have dozens that we still need to find homes for. So we need to give them a little bit more money for fuel. just
Very
like we did
worthwhile
the-
cause, I make a motion.
Worthwhile motion by Commissioner Robbins.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. This is our service delivery agreements. 26 documents, about 75 pages. Any attorney would love them, I'm sure. Very riveting reading, but we like the lack of drama and all the hard work that went into it. This will last for 10 years. We need the City of Dalton and Tunnel Hill to vote at least next week, which they committed to, and we'll get Cohutta and Varnell eventually as well in the next week or two. You guys had a chance to review those. We need to approve the, I think, roughly 26 documents and the Form 5 agreement to go to DCA. They have the final say-so, but for some reason, but we have to submit them by October 31st, if not before.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Jones to approve our service delivery agreements. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. We removed item 20 earlier. So this is the new item that we added of to add a member to the Board of Assessors. Several of us have talked to Bob Chinister, checked his references, and I think we're all in agreement that he'd make a great, this is filling an open position that the Board of Assessors has currently.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chichester.
Motion by Commissioner Staton to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. And one of the grants that we did win is related to the juvenile court. This is to try and reduce delinquencies, keep families together. They won a grant for 12 months for $20,470. And it can be renewed. We can apply again next year. Is there a motion to accept the grant that we won?
Motion to accept.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 4-0 vote. All right, we are ready for public comments. Can be on the agenda or any other topics.
Good evening.
Please state your name and address just for the record.
My name is Stacy Doran. I reside at 3213 Wright Road, Rocky Face, Georgia. Spoke to y'all in July. Only one of you has followed up with me about the information I shared with you, and this includes communications I've sent by letter and email to all of you. The same lack of response goes for our state legislators who I've repeatedly written, talking about Chuck Payne, Steve Tarvin, Casey Carpenter, and Jason Ridley. And I'm talking about our elections and the lack of trust the citizens of the state have, and specifically this county have in our elections. It's obvious by the lack of effort by elected officials to pull back the curtain, to ask questions, and to learn why so many citizens like myself across our state don't trust elections. Securing our elections is a matter of national security. and it should be important. And the information that has been presented in July and that I have sent should be important. Yet it seems we're busy with lots of other things in this county that don't compare to elections and the trust. So some officials I've spoken to have said to me, they'll do something once we've proven there's been fraud. No, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. See, there's an oath that's taken that elections are conducted true and perfect. You prove to us that our elections are safe and accurate. The problem is, actually, though, it's impossible to prove that our elections are safe and accurate because we use complex machines that nobody in this room, nobody in our election office, or any office of this state has the knowledge or should have to have the knowledge to understand what's in that machine and what it did when the votes were processed. There's no logical sense to have the electronic voting systems that we have in every county in this state. So, let me just talk to you about some facts and some proof that are serious. Dominion. In Williamson County, Tennessee in 2021, a clerk, a poll worker, was in a county office, and she was tabulating the votes on her notepad. And when they got done with the election, they realized that the machine didn't have the same number of votes she had tallied on her notepad. So they did an investigation. The Secretary of State was called in, the EAC was called in. You know what they found? Whoops, the machine miscounting some votes. And Dominion was called in. The EAC and Dominion cannot tell us why the error occurred. They just said it happened, and it didn't count votes after this specific error occurred. And the error was that when it read the ballots, it's the same machines we use in every county here in Georgia. It reads the QR codes to tabulate the vote, and when it hit an error, it could not decipher the QR code. An error was thrown in the system, and after that error was hit, it no longer counted the votes, and that's a big problem. So you're talking about however many votes after that point were not counted. Okay, well, what does that mean to Whitfield County? Well, once this was publicized as an issue, myself and other citizens across the state requested the data logs from our voting machines, and they were sent to us, and guess what? 65 times in the May 24th primary election in Whitfield County, this error fired. It's in the logs. I can show it to you. So, were those votes after that error occurred counted or not? Did anybody check? They wouldn't know unless they were doing the same tally that this woman was doing in Williamson County, trying to check it, trying to confirm it, because our Secretary of State has tried to block all hand recounts and access to paper ballots. So, you know, if you could count a paper ballot and compare it to the number, you might have figured it out. But that's being blocked in all places. It's serious, and it's time to peel back the curtain. So I'll just point out a couple other facts. This is an alert from the National Counterintelligence Security Center. They advise there are foreign adversaries attempting to access our nation's key supply chains at multiple points. They will exploit these vulnerabilities to subvert and disrupt critical networks and systems. Do you think the election machines are not susceptible to these kind of attacks? Do you remember the Colonial Pipeline attack? Do you remember the SolarWinds supply chain attack? Did you know that SolarWinds attack breached the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy Systems, and the list goes on? There are 18 acknowledged advanced persistent threat system teams in the world. One of these is in China. They employ thousands of employees, and they are after the United States of America. Dell PCs, the Dominion PCs, the Dominion machines are built by Dell. They are manufactured in China. There is no private industry in China. The CCP owns it all. Then I'll point out Conic, which was just in the news yesterday, who the CEO was arrested because millions of U.S. poll worker data was found on CCP-owned servers in China. The National Institute of Standards and Technical Bulletin in 2015 advised, Without effective security processes and practices throughout a system, the unintentional vulnerabilities can be placed in a system and exploited by attackers with malicious content, data capture, and taking other advantage. There are 0 voting systems in the United States certified on the 2015 or 2021 EAC standards. All machines in use in the United States are certified on the 2005 standard, which is grossly inadequate. And the Whitfield County machines have not had any updates since they were installed in 2019. The time to act is now. I've emailed you all the documented details of what I just shared. If you've been given this information and you refuse to do anything about it, you need to resign your positions. Thank you.
I'm sure you thought you wouldn't see me for a while. I didn't plan on being up here. Vicki Alt, Cahutta, Georgia. Just a couple of things come to mind. First of all, who the heck does your planning calendar? It was very clear next Monday is Columbus Day all year long. And you wait till next week to change it and change the time. That's not very transparent, and that's not working with the community in no way, shape, or form. Planning Commission last week, or 2 weeks ago, the live feed was cut off before they gave their vote. It was just cut off and shut down. That's a problem, because those people did not get to see basically what the Planning Commission did. All the rest of it's fluff. That's what counted, and they didn't get to see it. Also, because obviously we have a lack of transparency, and those kind of things just add to it and make us trust you even less than we already do. And that we don't want to be here. We want to be at our homes, taking care of our own problems, knowing you all are taking care of us, taking care of our problems, but not one of you is. Not one of you is. You need to keep the community informed. I've sent each of you an email, and as always, I've never received a reply.
Replied many, many times to you.
You have.
Not
You're
always.
right.
That's like,
I
I
have to-
never not reply.
No,
It'd be
you have
better.
not, and you and I have had some good conversations. I apologize. I think of you as the chairman and a non-voting member, so let me apologize to you, because I think we do have good communications. I
We
cannot
had a
say
meeting, didn't we, in person a few weeks ago?
that meeting.
Well, I'm just asking, it's not like we haven't discussed issues with you.
We were
So that-
lectured. We were lectured, and we told,
Well, that's your opinion.
it is.
So you were lectured in my office? when we
No,
met?
you were not. No, you were fantastic. I loved talking to you, and I want to talk to you again, because
It's perfectly fine.
you know, there are ways we can solve our problems, but not with you guys sitting up there ignoring those of us back here. It's got to be a joint effort, or it will never work. But I think we can solve them. I know I've heard nationwide problem. We don't live in the nationwide. We live in Whitfield County. Let's fix Whitfield County problems.
Vicki, I think me and you had about an hour conversation too.
Well,
on the
your car
phone.
was broken. We did, and you pretty much told me that we just need to get used to the building that was going to be going on.
Yeah, we're gonna continue to grow. The community's gonna continue
Growth is
to
not the
grow.
problem. The problem is this absolute uncontrollable growth without the proper infrastructure to handle the influx. Now, I have suggested to all of you many times that we take a break, a hold. Let these houses we've got slated, 3,000 to 5,000 on the north side, let them get in place and settle in, see what we need, see what our transportation needs are. Don't just keep throwing these PUDs up and these big subdivisions up willy-nilly like they're doing in Collegedale, Abson, Catoosa County. We don't need to be them. We're better. We're better than them. So yes, we did. But this particular email I sent, one thing, we've got a huge gap in our knowledge between what you all know and what we know and when we know it. We found out about Camden Farms just almost about the time it got posted for the rezoning request. That's at least 15 days before the Planning Commission. That's not much time. My question to each of you is when did you know about Camden Farms? And have you ever went out and talked to your constituents about this beforehand? Commissioner Jones, when did you know about Camden Farms? A possibility of it, a thought of it, a talk?
Most of the time, when I come to the planning commission, that's the first time I see a request.
Well, okay, then how could you vote for $900,000 of ARPR money, ARPA money, to go to that sewer, to run that sewer to that particular property? You didn't know?
Matter of fact, I was out of town during that vote.
During that vote?
I sure was.
Okay, well,
It was in the newspaper and the television. at the end of
nobody reads
January.
the newspaper,
Well, the
trust me.
television too, on the.
I don't watch, I've never had, my TV hasn't
That's
been on
public
in 5
information.
months, guys. You've got a website. There are other ways to reach out.
We're trying to improve all the
I found out about the about the ARPA money when Camden Farms came up, and I Googled the Chattanooga Times article about it. That's the only reason. And that was in January 27th, special called meeting. Commissioner Thomas, when did you know? Seriously.
Good grief, I don't write stuff down.
And you don't
that's-
keep track of
that's-
1,160 homes going
What did you do
in?
8 months ago on
8
this
months
day?
ago, let's see.
This
wa-
day.
I
I
was
keep
probably-
my pulse on the community and the vote.
You
Let
keep
me
your pulse on the
refresh.
community?
Do you?
Go ahead.
You don't listen to reason, unfortunately.
I've had a
But I'll
lot of.
try again.
Please do.
The ARP money for the sewer came first, okay?
It did.
And we voted, if the subdivision they proposed was accepted and approved, then we would use that money to run the sewer up the Cleveland Highway. So there you go.
If I understand that right, you voted on it January 27th this year, which means you would have had to know at least, I don't know, a week before, at least?
Of course, we knew that someone was wanting to put a subdivision up there. Otherwise, why would we have voted?
Well, in that same
And I don't
article.
know the dates, but we can look back at the date to see when we voted.
Well, I've
to
asked
let
for the
sewer
dates.
go up there if it came to fruition.
I've asked
the
for the
development.
dates. I didn't get anything. Now, in that same article, Commissioner Jensen is talking about the biggest subdivision in Whitfield County history, affordable homes, good local jobs. I don't know how many of you have been to a work site lately, but I see a lot of vehicles, and they don't have Whitfield County tags. But, so, you already knew it was going to be big, and it was never brought up.
Well, he made a presentation at that meeting with the.
The special called meeting that no one knew about.
It was publicized, I'm sorry, it was
Oh, I'm
publicized in
sorry.
January.
We weren't paying attention, but that won't happen again.
We're way over 5 minutes, so you want to just wrap it up?
Well, yeah, I still want an answer to my question. You all feel free to call me. Feel free to email me. I'm sure you have my email address. And transparency needs to be better. There needs to be better communication.
Any further public comment?
Hi, I'm Roberta. I'm a Whitfield County citizen. Something was brought to my attention yesterday, and I wasn't sure that you guys were aware of it, so I just wanted to bring it to your attention. They said that you were part of the governing authority with the elections. Is that true?
We provide the budget for the elections, like to hire the staff, for example, and to mail out, I should print out the
Okay.
ballots, mail them out, that type of thing. We do not provide oversight. That's the election board and the
Sure.
Secretary of State. But
Roberta. Roberta Curtin. I'd rather not provide my address. I live in Whitfield County, thank you. The Georgia Code 2020, Title 21, Chapter 2, Article 2A, which is 21-2-300. Under A2, this is where I'm concerned. It says that our electronic ballot markers shall produce a paper which are marked by the electors, which are our voters, that is in the format readable by the elector. Okay? I can't read QR code. The guy that invented QR code cannot read QR code. And the definition of QR code is machine readable optical label. So I would like for the QR codes to be removed from our ballots so that we don't have errors going forward. Thank you very much for your time.
On that subject, and Stacy may know a lot more, obviously, than I do. So the error that may occur, like when we print our ballot out and it shows who I voted for, when it's transferred or whatever to the QR code, that's where the error may be occurring?
No, the error occurs when you take that piece of paper and you put it through that machine that scans it, and that machine is reading that code that she just spoke about to tabulate how you voted. What happens is when that machine read that piece of paper and tried to interpret that QR code, it didn't know how to interpret it. It says QR code misread. And after that error fires, no ballot scanned after that is counted. That's what happened in Williamson, Tennessee.
Yeah, and
we need to find out if that happened here, because the error showed up in the log 65 times.
She may have just answered it, but I know the last time I early voted, there were boxes and boxes of paper, and there were filing cabinets, and I was talking to the wonderful staff we have in that, 2 doors down. I know when you early vote, or when you vote, you get the piece of paper, and then you're scanning it into that machine. And I thought they told me they had to keep those records for X amount
Oh,
of
yeah,
years.
that's
or
the paper
periods.
ballot that our Secretary of State tries to keep from us. Yes, right.
2 years, or if there's a lawsuit, which there are plenty of lawsuits that have to keep it even longer.
So the art,
Prints
But here-
out who I voted for, that is not necessarily who I voted for.
Yeah, there's
mean,
multiple
it wasn't
ways that these
counted that
machines
way,
can be hacked. One is that you may read, there's human readable language printed that you can read that says I voted for A, B, and C. But the way it reads it in the machine is by that code. It doesn't read the text, okay? So there can be machine manipulation when it reads that. There actually has been proven cybersecurity experts that are voting system experts that actually said that when you go and you're punching in on the screen, A, B, C, who I voted for, what it prints out something different. And that's only caught if the voter confirms. Did it print out who I selected? And that puts the responsibility on the voter. And we know, I've witnessed that nobody ever checks their ballot. I don't know if y'all recall yourself doing it. I know.
Check that part, but I can't tell if that QR code
Oh,
is.
no.
You're right about that, no doubt.
I mean,
I
But-
checked the printout, but that's
No
what
argument.
the issue is.
If-
That's not necessarily
do we not have
how it's read.
machines smart enough to figure out who we voted for without looking at that QR code?
Oh, yes. That technology is simple and basic, and it has existed. I personally,
SAT, like they do the SATs.
I personally, because I am a systems person, I don't think machines have any place in the process because they're going to always be vulnerable. I think hand-marked paper ballots, hand-counted at each precinct, because you're talking, the Whitfield County's largest precinct is Varnell. I'm going to give 2,200 to 2,500 votes cast. The rest of them are more like 500 to 800 votes cast. Those could be counted quickly and easily.
but that paper, because I'll early vote the 17th whenever it opens. That paper's going to print out who I voted for, correct? Or is it just QR code?
At both.
But it reads the QR code.
But it
doesn't
reads
read
the
other
QR
one.
code.
I believe that.
Yes, it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I think I would say let's do Scantron or something anyway.
Can,
Paper would be better.
Robert,
We're not allowed to.
Robert, if we wanted to do something like that, I would think the state would have to approve it.
No, sir. 21-2-366, you're the governing authority of this county, and you can choose to replace the scanner in place we have now. You can do hand-marked paper ballots and scan them through a basic scanner. And then I would suggest we do a hand count to follow it at the precinct, because that will increase the
Unfortunately,
trust that we need.
Unfortunately, another county tried that, and the Secretary of State fined them.
They were-
15,000 a day.
Yeah, but they did it wrong.
day.
And just because the Secretary of State said it, don't make it so. And let me tell you, I've documented, and what I sent you, his credibility is seriously.
I realize that, but we still get fined.
Well,
Not
they
per
did it
election. I'd
wrong,
pay
and they did
$15,000
it
per
different, and they
election.
didn't know the law. And I'm not a lawyer, but I can read the code.
And it sounds like what
It's been tried.
y'all just told us, it's pretty simple. Once you get that printed out, the actual names of who you cast your ballot for, to scan that into something else that'll actually read the names rather than the QR code. Is that your understanding?
Yes, there are devices that can read just the text, or, you may have to have a specific ballot type for those type of scanners. It may not be able to use the ballot that comes out of our machines today. But again, I would ask again, what citizens need to take, because all of the reasons I just explained why the machines are susceptible, and the ability for somebody to prove to us that they are trustworthy is too complex. So why not just do hand-marked paper ballots, hand counted at the precinct? We already have all the supplies we need to do it. No, do you realize how much money, the state taxpayer money, was spent on these systems? And we've already talked to our election board, the logistics and the frustration of getting these machines here and there and maintaining them. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense.
You have talked to the Board of Elections.
Yes.
According to that statute she's reading, we don't have to get approval from the Secretary of State. It's already in law. That's where he changed the law to do the boxes out front, that he didn't have the right to change the law. The legislators are the only ones that can change the law.
But the county can count their votes any way they want to? I mean, once they're printed out, is that? The way.
Secretary of State will be up here in 5 minutes with a herd of attorneys.
Bring him. Let's talk to him.
If you had it all printed out and you could prove your count was right. But
We can have our attorney look at it, but like I said, I don't know what the other county did quote wrong, but they tried and they got fined $15,000 a day.
And allow the cheating to keep going. It was Clark Athens that did it. It was the city of Athens who did it. And, they went to, paper ballots and hand counting, hand-marked paper ballots and hand counting. And they didn't go through the process that they needed to go to. It wasn't the Secretary of State that fined them, it was the State Election Board who has the authority to fine. And they backed down. And, it's because they weren't prepared. They really didn't study what they were doing. They just decided, we're gonna do this. We're sick of all these problems with machines. So at any rate, the fining has been used by the Secretary of State. Can you hear me now?
It's not just for you, it's for the audience on.
Hey, guys.
It's for the audience in streaming.
There was an incident in May in Lamar County. Two county commissioners wrote a demand letter to their chairman of the Board of Elections demanding that they get rid of the machines, that they exercise their authority. Of course, these two commissioners weren't appreciated by the chairman of the Board of Commissioners nor the chairman of the Board of Elections. So they consulted with the chairman of the Board of Elections, consulted with the Secretary of State's office. And the response that came to the two commissioners, the county commissioners, was threats. First of all, they had no authority, and they quoted 21-2-300, and I think it's A3, Bowlegs 3, I think, where it states that the Secretary of State has total dominion over the machines, that he and he alone has the authority to make decisions on the machines. And when the wording of that ends, that's where the guidance ended. But the law does not end at that guidance. The law ends with a comma, and then it says, unless otherwise authorized by law. And that wording tells us that there are probably going to be some exceptions in the law. And one of those exceptions is what Stacy informed you of back in July. That was 21-2-366 that she just reminded you of, where you have the authority to replace the scanning systems and direct their use with a scanner of your choice. And if you choose one that is not compatible with the rest of the Dominion system, then in effect, you have just eliminated the use of the Dominion system. And you would be, and when you decide that you're going to do that, all the good relationships that you have with the legislature and the good relationships that the County Board of Elections has with the Secretary of State's going to go downhill quickly. But I would like to think that you men are men of character and honorable men and would do what is the right thing. And the right thing is to do whatever is needed to be done to get rid of all of this fraud that exists in our elections. And there's a lot of it. You got the briefing on a lot of the hacking. And there's an end to that story that I hadn't disclosed yet. But that was the end of last October. Mr. Civic, he was sitting in there too. And so was County Clerk. The fraud's rampant. If you would like, I can send you in an order, if you'd like to decide, Jevon, or get with the commissioners how you want it, I can begin sending you video information and written information to get you up to snuff on what's really going on with the elections. Stacy has been doing it, and I know that she and I talk quite a bit about all these issues, and I can begin doing it as well. So,
Robert, what would be our options if we did anything?
I'd really like to look into it a little more if I could, but I think Mr. Dashler's right that the Secretary of State's office certainly takes a position that they control this.
Yep.
And the State Board of Elections takes that position too.
I want to point out real quickly, if I can, there is a case, I brought it up in July, Curling v. Raffensperger, where the state was sued with the illegality of the systems we've kind of touched on today. But in the order that the judge put out in 2019, it's a 153-page document, and I've read pretty thoroughly through the first half of it. The Secretary of State at that time is arguing adamantly that he has no control over the counties, that the counties run their own elections. And yet he's done a complete 180 in this time, and it's very concerning, and I have a problem with it. Thank you for your time. I hope that you will follow up with me. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
John Dashler, Sourwood Drive, Whitfield County. I didn't intend to speak tonight. What I want to say is I appreciate y'all's attitude. I see videos, several videos, probably 30, 35, of other people in other counties, and I communicate with most of these people, sometimes before they make presentations, sometimes after. And most of them are met with hostility or indifference. I appreciate your attitude of cooperation, Nate, because I think there's a possibility that we may be able to get something accomplished in Whitfield County. And I'll be glad to work with y'all in getting you educated. If you tell me what you want to be educated on.
Well, I think
How not to be fined.
I think we need to be concerned about Whitfield County and what our options are as far as the way to count.
Well,
I mean, what's done's done, and if there's anything this board can do to make sure that we know that each voter's vote counts and that the way they cast it
No, you can't.
is the way it's counted. And
You
we
can't.
need to, but,
yeah, you can't do that, not before the midterms.
right, well,
That's a done deal.
by the next presidential election.
Well, that's when we're gonna be kicking in high gear with our activism,
No problem.
is right after the elections.
Robert, I would like to, take as much time as you need, but I would like to hear what our
Court
options are.
cases, law, review.
Good,
Yep.
bad, ugly, whatever they are.
I'll be glad to talk to you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones.
Talk for just a minute with Bob about